like the leg with the shoe still on it. I'm not hungry anymore. I feel unwell.
Can you imagine if he'd got there in the north and found District 13? Because you would rather die than be a regular member of society. 2 raging book nerds, 14 years of friendship, and 1 burning question.
If Katniss Everdeen posted on Reddit, would she be the arsehole?
Welcome to Once Upon a Red Flag. This season, we're stepping into Pan Am, where every tribute, tyrant and mentor gets their day in the Am I the Asshole courtroom.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Rachel.
And join us while we read between the red flags and break down the Hunger Games, one questionable decision at a time. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 17 of Once Upon a Red Flag. We are now away from the original trilogy. We are now going into Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. How do you feel, Rachel, about this?
Bit weird, not gonna lie. I don't know how you felt rereading this book as well to make all these notes, but I enjoyed it. But God, it's an arduous task because Snow is not the easiest person to read about. He's not the most logical or sane or, any of the good things in the world. Snow is not them.
Yeah.
So it does get a little bit harder to get on board. However, that doesn't mean that I can tear him a new one. And that means that I've had so many notes for this book than I have ever had for a book before.
I know.
Which is a big thing. But I also, I looked at the size of this book in comparison, on the shelf, and it looks the same size, but the font's different. So, I feel like it's easily, the font's smaller. So I feel like it's easily, 20 to 30% more words to analyse as well. I don't actually know the word count of the books, but these are going to be big, beefy episodes, guys.
Yeah. What's the icebreaker for this week, Rachel?
So, as we are recording this, it is the 1st of March for us.
Yay!
I don't know what day this is going out. Yay! I feel like it's just some party poppers going on in the background. Confetti rains from the ceiling. Yes, the 1st of March. And I got sent this by my mother earlier in the week, actually. Shout out to my mum, who keeps on top of everything podcast related for me.
That's so cute.
And I get every time she watches an episode, I get messages about how what she liked about the episode. She's adorable. I love her. And she sent me an article. So apparently this week, Goodreads users have voted The Hunger Games as the best book ever of all time. Now, this might be a very, very difficult question for you. And obviously, The Hunger Games is being voted the best book ever is fabulous for our views. And I know you love this series. But do you agree that this is the best book ever? Ever? If not, what would you say it is? If it is, what would you say is the second book? Best book ever? This is a really, really hard question. Because I'm not sure if even I have an answer to this. So I don't know why I'm giving you the question. But I've linked the Goodreads list for you as well if you want to go and have a look at that. Some other options of best books of all time. It will probably entirely depend on what your criteria is. Bless you. It will depend entirely on what the criteria is for the best book of all time. Is it plot? Is it writing? Is it beautiful imagery? Before you go and look and get this spoiled, I do want to point out some of the fantastic entries on the list are things like Pride and Prejudice and The Book Thief, To Kill a Mockingbird, Animal Farm, Wuthering Heights. And yet, somehow, narrowly missing out on the top 5. In at number 6, we have Twilight.
Number 6.
Which I thought was hilarious.
That's great.
It's up there, we're heavy-hitting dystopia, allegories of the costs of war and all this stuff. And here's these classics from years gone by. And then Twilight, sparkly vampires up there as well.
Nice. I think.
What do you think? Do you think Twilight should be listed higher on the list?
I think The Hunger Games is probably the best YA book. Okay. I think I would agree that it was probably the best YA book. Yeah, because I've always said The Hunger Games is my favourite YA book. So I think it's probably the best young adult book. But I think from the best book ever, I mean, that's
Ever.
a very hard decision to make.
Ever.
Somebody did ask me that the other day and I wasn't really sure. But from the things that I've read, I would feel like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein would have to be up there, because now I know the writing is very wordy. There's like it's like old worldy writing.
Most of the way through that.
But it's the concept for me that makes me feel like it's one of the best books ever. Plus, it was written when she was like really young.
I think she's like 17 or something. When I don't think she was 20 even when she wrote that. It's insane.
No, I think she was like 16, 17. She was at like a holiday kind of lodge situation with, I think, her husband, Percy Shelley, and somebody else. And it was like raining and the weather was really bad, and they basically had like a contest to write the best scary story, and that's what she came up with from one of those things. And then obviously then went on to publish it, and then she's just a bit of a legend because when her husband died, she ended up keeping his heart in a drawer. Like, I think it's just
I didn't know that bit.
Yeah, it's just like the concept and everything around the book, and then her in herself, I feel like that makes it one of the best books ever. People will disagree. I feel like I also love Bram Stoker's Dracula, and that people might have expected that to be my first choice, but I think Frankenstein is probably up there. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I thought Dracula. I did think. You ready? Do you want me to pause?
No, just keep going. People hear me sneeze. Sorry.
I'm going to be sniffling and coughing throughout this as well. It's that time of year where the temperature has changed, and therefore illness has hit me like a freight train. I thought Dracula. I loved Dracula. I then also loved, I do have it behind me, Dracul, which is like, if you haven't read Dracul, read Dracul. So it is from like a descendant of Bram Stoker has written, because obviously around Dracula, there was a lot of, I guess, like folklore and mythology around like whether Bram Stoker had experiences with the vampire when he wrote Dracula. And so that goes into like all of that concept. But I thought Dracula at first, and then I remembered. I don't have the book. My mother has the book. But there is a predecessor to Dracula that is about 25 years previous. It's by Sheridan Le Fanu, and it's called Carmilla. Have you read Carmilla, Katie?
This. Yes, I have this book. I have seen the web series. Did you know there was a web series? Carmilla web series on YouTube?
I haven't seen the web series. I read the book first. I found it in Leeds, I think, in Waterstones, and I went mad for it. I was like, yes, give me this. Lesbian vampires, give me now.
Well, the web series is based off of that short story, Carmilla. It's by Kotex on YouTube. It must have started when I was in secondary school, and it kind of became a lesbian cult following program. Did really well.
Enough.
Had like 4 seasons, and then got a film from it.
I'm gonna write this down to find the web series.
Because at the time that it came out, there wasn't really much lesbian. Yeah, there wasn't really much lesbian content, and I think it was before things like Orange is the New Black and that kind of thing. Like, it predated all of that, so it was like, oh my god, like, I can't believe this is happening. And that's when I then bought the Carmilla book and read it. I love how you were like, oh, I don't know if you're gonna read this. Yes, I've read this.
Yes. Maybe you won't have read it. I don't know.
You have to read it.
I was like, maybe I'll blow your mind on something that you haven't read that I've read.
You have to read it before you're allowed to get your Women Loving Women card.
Fair enough. Yeah, you have to read Carmilla first.
Yes.
That's fair.
That's so fair.
That's fair enough. I remember finding it and being like, oh my god, this is like predating Dracula. And it is women loving women in a concept that isn't like degraded or like it's not someone being like, no, bad, get off. It is it is just such a beautiful, and it's such a short read as well. It is fabulous for like a rainy day, particularly an October rainy day when you want something a little bit spooky that isn't terrifying.
A little bit sad.
So I think a little bit sad, but it's one of them that once you've read it, I don't think you can go back. And I'm really sad to see that it's not in the top 100 list on Goodreads. It isn't there. Dracula's there.
Does that top 100 list include novellas? Or is it just full books? Because I know it's technically classed as a novella. Might not be
let me have a look. It just said, I'm sure that there are some shorter books in here. They're not all like full. Then again, it's like word count wise. Let's have a see. Can I feel out anything here that is a novella? Dracula 1984. Charlotte's Web's in here. Charlotte's Web's in here. I don't know how long Charlotte's Web is. It's a children's book though, so I would have thought it would be a smaller word count. Then again, Watership Down's massive, so
yeah, I didn't think it was a novella, but maybe it is. Maybe someone listening will correct me.
I don't know what a novella. I mean, like it doesn't actually tell us what's a novella and what's not. So unless I'm familiar with the book, and there's some here that I've never even heard of at all. So Vampire Academy's in here. I've never read that one either.
Oh my god, I've seen the film for that. I think I read the book. That's in the top one. That's in the top 100.
I've been meaning to read Vampire Academy for years. Yes, in the top 100.
Interesting.
Winnie the Pooh's in there. A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh.
Oh,
and so I would have thought that that's adorable. But I would have thought that Winnie the Pooh is not a big book because it's a children's book. So therefore, if you're going off word count, it's middle grade. Would you then not want to include? No one's giving me a word count. No one's giving me a word count here. I'm going to be out here all day. It's 161 pages apparently. But no one's giving me a word count.
Anyway,
I get bogged down with analysing.
We're going to get stuck on this and then the episode is not going to happen. So shall we move into the post for today, Rachel?
Yes. Okay. Let's go forward into a book that is definitely not a novella because it took me days to read this. But that may have been getting over Snow's disgusting opinions, which we will get into. Yeah. But our post to kick this off, what you were going to say? What were you going to say?
I don't like being inside his head. I hate it.
Yeah,
it was hard.
It's a bit. You're gonna love then when I bring up later on the multiple disgusting quotes that I have picked out as not necessarily relevant to any of our discussion points, but more just like we need to listen to this to really, sit in this filth of his mind for a while. Because that's all. It's the only way I can say it, really. It's not sexual filth. It's just disgusting and degrading, and no one's human.
Yeah.
But before I spoil it for everyone, let's get into the post. So he says, I, 18 male, come from one of, if not the, most prominent families in the capital. The war almost changed that. My father and mother died, and our investments were destroyed. We spent years pretending we still lived as we once did. We had to get creative about how we declined guests. We're constantly looking for ways to feed ourselves and keep up the facade to everyone else that we were still prospering. We refused to let those around us see that we were one false step away from being exposed for what we were. Poor. I obviously learned early on that survival depended on presentation, alliances, and always appearing powerful and strong. While I had to keep people at arm's length so they didn't feel like they could stop by our home uninvited and witness our shame, I also needed to keep them close enough to take advantage of their resources whenever possible. This all came to a head when I was selected to be a mentor in the 10th Hunger Games. It was the perfect opportunity to solve a lot of our problems. My university tuition could be paid for me, saving us money that we definitely did not have. And if I didn't go to university like everyone expected, like I had been telling everyone I wanted to do, we would undoubtedly have been found out to be frauds, failures to our family name. I could not afford to lose. I was set up to fail from the very start. I was given the weakest candidate, the worst odds possible. Whoever made the choice to give me the most horrible tribute possible could have humiliated me in front of the entire country. So I worked my hardest to make her stand out. She could carry a tune and seemed to be a decent performer, so I capitalised on that to put her on the map. Our task was to make people watch the games, and I was determined to make her the star of the show. If she couldn't win the strength, she would at least charm the viewers. The longer she survived the games, the longer I survived in my world. She wasn't bad looking either. She seemed to fall in love with me. That was a nice bonus. I may have employed some underhand tactics, but she did indeed win the games. It was the strangest games we have ever had since their inception, and multiple tributes and mentors died before we even made it into the actual competition. The ones that did were all helping their tributes out, but I am the one who got caught. I won the Hunger Games, and I won the university scholarship, but it all got ripped away from me. I was forcibly made to join the Peacekeepers, and if that was the best I could now do with my life, I would at least follow my winner to District 12 and try to hold on to my girl. My star. I thought I had lost everything, and so I went into what I will call a salvage mode. I tried to make the best I could out of the hand I had currently been dealt. I made some acquaintances, started to build a career for myself as quickly as I could. I didn't want my squad to know my sordid history, but not until I built something of myself again anyway. I managed it too. The experience was life-changing. I learned more about myself in that handful of weeks than I had in all my experience in schooling. I took care of myself in situations I had never gone through before, and it was an eye-opening summer. I protected my goals, my life, and my future, and clearly I did something right. I got to return to the capital with my head held high, back in the place I should have always occupied. I also learned some ways to stay on top too, preventing issues before they started, and learning how to deal with my dissenters early, before they could cause trouble for me. I get the sense there are some people who don't approve of my new position, my new methods, and my solidified morals. They have no idea what I have gone through to get to this point, and what I am willing to do to stay on top. But I would like someone else to back me up, to end the discussion once and for all. I came back home without the girl I supposedly run after, but I am in the place I was always meant to be, and she's not exactly going to refute that. I don't see anything wrong with my actions. Am I the asshole? He's so cagey about it. So cagey about what he's done. Mm-hmm.
Rachel, what does dissenters mean?
Like naysayers, like putting you down. I'm going to give you the exact definition. Okay. It's Snow. He has a person who holds opinions that are at variance with those commonly or officially held. So dissenters would literally be like him as president, or like against his politics and stuff. There we go.
So yeah,
Merriam-Webster supports it better than I do.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
He's very cagey about what he's done as well. Like, in no point does he ever say exactly what he has done.
He knows it's dodgy. He knows
no one can know.
Finnick's
not supposed to know these things in the future, so no one can know now when he's posting it on Reddit, can he?
Well, interesting. I feel like this is going to be...
we know the full story.
Yeah, this is going to be a mighty discussion. It's going to be a long one. There's a lot to break out. I know we've had a couple of Snow episodes already, obviously to do with like the original trilogy, but I think with this book being from Snow's head, we have so much to say about him and his disgusting attitude. So shall we get into it, Rachel?
Let's get into it, because we're going to be here for a while.
I can't believe we are now onto the prequel books. But in the next few episodes, we are now going to be breaking down the arsehole decisions in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, as I have mentioned. The book obviously follows Coriolanus Snow in his teen years when he is a student at the academy in the capital, a prestigious private school for the upper class. So not just upper class, but the upper class of the capital.
These are the creme de la creme kids, these guys.
I know. One of the most prestigious secondary schools in the city. So already you kind of get the vibe and the people that are going to be at this school, right? Mostly posh private school people, and we all know some. I actually was one, to be fair. I was one for primary school, but this is like the posh private school people on steroids, who also on top of that see no problem with killing children. So it's kind of like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, so like out of touch, very much out of touch.
I guess, so I read recently, I was listening to an actual like real life Am I the Asshole Reddit post, and someone said that they had we used to like rich people like being out of touch with reality, and this guy had a rich girlfriend and she replaced all of his books, all of his like ones that he collected over years. Yeah, so like ones that he'd been gifted and collected over like years of reading. She like went out and replaced all of his books for brand new copies.
Why?
Because the old ones were tatty and worn, because he'd read them multiple times and new is always better.
What? That's so weird.
Like you can see, massively out of touch.
Yeah, massively out of touch.
And then you bring that idea of like rich posh snob into the world of the capital and Panem, and these guys are now in charge not only of their finances and like agriculture and like oil. They now have people's lives. in their hands, which is very, very dangerous. Like I said, we're going to focus on Snow / Corio, whatever you want to call him. His name's Coriolanus. He gets called Corio.
It's Corio.
Makes me sound like I'm saying Yo-Yo. Well, it's Corio, but then they call him Corio with a Y multiple times, like his childhood nickname. So what do you want to call him? Snow, Corio, Corio, an amalgamation of all of them at different times. It might get confusing.
I'm gonna go by the audiobook and call him Snow and then Corio or Coriolanus if he's doing something really bad.
I mean, the word anus at the end kind of, highlights exactly where he's going with this.
I haven't even like realized that until right now. So, congratulations.
And I don't know about the idea of Sejanus either, but I was going to point out Janus is some sort of god. It might be Roman. He's a two-faced god, which would reflect Sejanus's two sides of being district and capital. Well done there, Suzanne Collins. She really thinks about these names.
She does, yeah.
I love it. It's fabulous. But whether we call him Snow or Corio or Corio or Coriolanus or just Anus, let's be honest, in this episode and these episodes going forward, because otherwise this is going to be one whole mammoth episode, probably 4 hours long, that I'm not sure anyone will sit through. So we'll be splitting them up, but we're going to deal with Sejanus in another Am I the Asshole post. So there's a lot to tear into with that particular boy and that relationship that they have. So we're going to just shove all that to one side and deal with that another day.
Okay.
Because there'll be plenty of other comments. Plenty of other comments from side characters that just show the culture, what the school is like and the circles that these kids come from. And let's just not get into that right now. We'll be here all day.
So I guess for some context, Corio is one of the 24 students at the Academy who've been selected to mentor the tributes for the 10th Hunger Games. The first time the tributes have had any sort of mentorship for the games, and is really instrumental to implementing and influencing Snow in how he reshapes the games that we end up seeing in the original trilogy, like with all the pomp and the reality TV and like game showiness of the thing, right? But I really don't think we can discuss Snow or Ballad without first discussing the background for all of this, which is obviously the war and the dark days, because I feel like it casts a major cloud over this whole book and therefore the decisions which Snow makes and the way that he behaves. The games have only been going on for 10 years at this point. So the war is still incredibly fresh in everybody's mind, like not just the capital, but also the districts. Like these people remember a time when there wasn't a Hunger Games, right? And I thought that's quite a big thing as well, because when we get onto the trilogy, like people don't remember a time before the Hunger Games. And President Ravenstill is in power, who was around during the dark days and basically implemented alongside Dr. Gaulle the Hunger Games.
Yeah. And we will obviously get more into how the Hunger Games got instated in the first place as well. In the Dr. Gaulle episode, it will come up again. We're talking about Snow and Highbottom and probably Sejanus as well, to be honest, because how that got put into place is going to be like a big sticking point for a lot of this as well. I have a whole big goal theory I'm working up in my head that involves all of that. But it will be super important then once we get further in, because at the start of this book, no one really knows how we got the Hunger Games. They just know that it was put into place, and it comes out that Dean Highbottom and Dr. Gaulle had big sort of like hands in this, but no one knows the full story yet.
Obviously, the opening... Yeah, the opening of Ballad is really depressing and really showcases like the post-war suffering that many families are going through. It's not that different to how most of the citizens live in the districts, at least food-wise, with Snow boiling the cabbage to eat it and seasoning it with salt, and that being his meal. This is obviously not enough to eat, but the fact this has become commonplace for this family is kind of the real point. Like, Snow is obviously close friends with hunger, in the same way a lot of people are in the districts. He is used to not having anything to eat and often being hungry, and he has a fear of his family dying, which spurs him on to do some pretty horrible things, later in the book.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? And everyone still thinks they have money as well at this point. Like the family, the Snow family themselves have let everyone think and have led them to think that they still have tons of money and that they're rolling in the door. And so like he has to find a way to mask all these hardships that he is going through on a daily basis.
Yeah, Snow probably thinks that at least during the war everyone was in the same boat in the capital, like everyone was deprived.
Yeah.
He talks about how the rebel districts held the food supplies and essentially tried to starve the capital, which sounds awfully familiar to some other things that happened in the original trilogy. Like he thinks back to when he showed up to the back of a closed down nightclub holding his grandmother's hand, trading things on the black market that were being run by a friend of theirs, Plurius Bell. But it's such a sad image when you think about it. And Pluribus doesn't even have the items they went there for, which I'm pretty sure was the milk, right? But he has a lot.
Like that.
Yeah, he has a lot of tinned lima beans, of all things, because canned goods are obviously still available. And Lord knows where Pluribus got all these from, but they take crates of this stuff from him in the hope that they will at least be able to eat some of them and trade the rest for other supplies later down the line. And Snow says something. He says something about the lima beans being horrible. And Pluribus literally says to him, what's horrible is what happened without the lima beans. And we obviously know what he means by this. And obviously, during the war, which I do find interesting, hoarding in the capital was illegal, a bit like 13 in the main trilogy, ironically. So it was illegal for the Snows to have so many tins of these lima beans. So they hide them, like they're made to like hide them everywhere in their apartment that they can think of. And they basically survived the war on lima beans and cabbage, eaten off. That's not the word. Basically opposed with like eating it off like this ridiculously fine china. Like the juxtaposition, that's the word, is mad. And now it's probably also a good time. Yeah, I know. Now is also probably a good time to bring up. Yeah.
Can I make a point? So you may have seen me just Google something quickly in the middle of you talking about that, because I forgot to check what the like British name is for lima beans, because I'm going, I don't see lima beans on our shelves. They're butter beans, if you didn't know. Which gives you some context into like, I Googled it because I was like, I hear it in American media a lot, lima beans. Everyone hates lima beans. I'm like, what are they? They're butter beans. There we go. For the Brits out there who go, what the hell is a lima bean? It's a butter bean. Okay. And I can imagine that you get very, very sick of butter beans after a while.
We're talking of things that you'll get sick of. Now is probably a good time to bring up the elephant in the room. And if you read the book...
Oh, yeah, please don't.
You will know that scene from the war, which makes me want to vomit. Most of the time I read it or think of it or listen to it or even see it in the film, because like it really shows how low the family had to go and how brutal the war was. And it still clearly has an imprint on them. Like Corio and Tigris are out in the streets, starving, looking for some crates for some reason, I guess to like burn, right? And on their way back,
firewood or something.
Yeah, literal dead bodies are just laying in the street. And I believe it's a maid who has just collapsed from exhaustion and died. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But they see their neighbour, who is just a dad trying to feed his own family, a dad they don't have, sawing off the limbs of this woman, sawing off like the leg with the shoe still on it. And now it's heavily implied why he is doing this. Tigris says that he must be starving, but I don't think seeing something like that ever leaves a person, because even me seeing it in the film scarred me enough. He says that in this moment, then he realised even himself could be seen as a meal or as food, which is really, really dark. And I know even like 10 years later, when the rebels are now under control, Corio still thinks of that moment when he bumps into his classmate, whose dad that was, and wonders whether she knew what she was eating. Yeah. I mean, it says a lot, doesn't it? I feel so awkward.
He brings it up like every single time he sees her, he remembers it and he brings it up in the narrative, like whether she knew what was in her wartime food. And then a classmate of his like gets close to her. It's Festus, right? Festus and Persephone, who are like starting this small budding flirtation towards the end of the book. when like some of the final mentors that still have tributes in the game, they're like getting quite close on the little dais where they're watching everything. And he keeps wondering whether he should tell his friend that he is falling for a cannibal. It's clearly left its mark on Snow.
Yeah.
And like he brings it up, like say in the narrative, whenever he sees it. So it's definitely not something he will be forgetting in a hurry. If you know Dr. Gaule's opinions, we will be getting in Dr. Gaule's opinions later on, but it makes you wonder whether this sort of formative experience has any part in his transition from what probably was at one point a normal child, a well-off child, and probably a very self-centered child nonetheless. But from that to murderous president, like I feel like realizing that your own body is a free-for-all in times of starvation, I feel like that may play into a lot of what Snow's issues as a president end up becoming. But I guess that is a story for another episode. Let's think less about the cannibalism right now.
I'm not hungry anymore. I feel unwell. I feel sick, Rachel. I don't know why we filmed this before lunch. I feel like this was a terrible idea.
So when you watch like TV and like surgery on TV, is like, no, I can't eat it. I can't eat that now.
Surgery's fine. Surgery's fine because that's like it's a part of everyday life, right? Like Grey's Anatomy, fine. Scream, fine. If it's anything to do with cannibalism, I can't go there. I can't watch any horror films. Even zombie films can be slightly too much for me.
There are people who know this reference, people who won't know this reference. Have you read Butcher and Blackbird?
No.
By Bryn Weaver? Maybe
I'm assuming I shouldn't. Yeah, I'm assuming I shouldn't because I know what it's about.
Anyone who has read will understand when I say the ice cream scene. And the trigger warnings do say accidental cannibalism. So let me skip that one.
Okay,
if you've read it, you'll get it. I won't say how it's accidental because it might spoil it for some people. But skip it. Don't read that one. You will feel so sick.
Okay, moving on before I actually throw up on camera. They're going back to the Snows. Their apartment is a bit worse for wear too, right? Like it was a war zone. It's been through a war zone, and it's still standing. Must be structurally sound, but they obviously can't afford to feed themselves. And they've been keeping the appearance of living on the Corso in their ancestral home since it is very, it's a big display of power and position, but they haven't been able to do any repairs on their home from the war damage, whereas other people in the capital have actually started to rebuild what was broken, refurbishing things, refurnishing things, adding the value back to their homes. But the Snows lost all their money during the war. And, because his father invested practically all their money on District 13 nuclear weapons, which is obviously really ironic. And I'm going to discuss that more in just a Janus episode. But how angry do you think he was when he became president and found out they weren't actually dead and destroyed? I bet he was absolutely livid. And I live for that. That makes me so happy.
I'm going to quickly Google something. I want to see... the map of Panem moment. You might know it in your head automatically. Where is 13 in relation to 12?
It's quite close. It's like, is it not like the next district over? It's kind of like New England.
So I'm on the one from Screen Rant, which I assume is an accurate one. So yeah, 13 is north of 12. Yeah. So we will get into this with Lucy Gray later on. But my thinking then being, can you imagine? Because don't forget, at the end of the book, there's talks of there being people in the north. And he and Lucy Gray are going to go run off to the north for a little bit. Can you imagine if he'd got there in the north and found District 13? Can you imagine if he'd actually gone? Yeah. And found them in person, and he'd be like, "You rat bastards!"
Be like, "You guys owe me a lot of money." Do you think he then would have
go in and try and take over
them?
Like, yeah, I owed you.
Yeah. Do you think he then would have got them to give him their money back, and then he would have left Lucy Gray there and gone back to the capital?
Maybe, or he might have then gone, "Well, actually, I legally owned all of your munitions." So I am now going to take over District 13 instead. And it could have been President Snow of District 13 rather than President Coin of District 13.
Oh my god, so much.
That would have been weird.
Anyway, we digress. He's obviously seeing all of his friends rebuild their homes, and I seriously doubt any of the residents of the capital got things like grants or payouts from Panem to rebuild. Like they just clearly had like wiser investments and kept more of their money. So obviously Snow feels like he is part of the only family without money, without investments. Both his parents are dead, including the little sister he should have had. Grandma is kind of a bit delulu and needs to be managed so as not to be an embarrassment. And it's really just Corio and Tigris, who turns out is actually his cousin. And these two are just trying to like hold everything together by like the skin of their teeth. Like that is a lot of stress for two teenagers. I mean, it's not being raped and fighting in the Hunger Games, which is obviously much worse, but it's still not great. Like we can agree, like that is not good. Like that's not great. That's not a fun time.
It's not a good idea. No. My brain is making all the connections today with different things, so I apologize for the scattiness. But I have so many thoughts around this idea of how they're trying to like hold it all together with this facade. And I do think my time for giving Corio like some grace with this of like everything has gone through is coming to an end. Because when I was reading these passages about this like performance of wealth that he's putting on at all times, my brain made an IRL world link. Have you watched The Dropout or know like the Elizabeth Holmes Theranos scandal? So if our lovely audience hasn't heard of this, I'll give you a quick rundown. It's a very, very quick and very, very simplified version for the purposes of my ultimate like point here. But there's a woman who basically pretended to have invented a technology that allowed blood tests to be carried out with only a few drops of blood. Idea being like, if you're scared of needles, you don't have to go for all the trauma of like blood being taken. But she did not actually have the technology. She was certain she could create it and was actively like working on getting it to work properly. But she was seeking like backing and financing by claiming that she already could do it. Like, it's a fantastic idea, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're afraid of having your blood taken, this would solve all those problems. But she was perpetrating a fraud because she's claiming to already have something that she didn't have to get the notoriety and investment capital to create the thing that she was already supposed to have, all while faking that she had it. Does this sound familiar in the context of Ballad? Because this is exactly what Corio and Tigris and the grandma, as they call her, they are doing this same thing. The Snows, but I guess Corio in particular, pretending to have wealth and status to be eligible to get a scholarship to the university to get him back to having wealth and status.
I do want to first say,
it just goes round
if you
again.
haven't seen The Dropout, I will go and watch it. It's on Disney Plus. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I feel like Corio and Tigris and even some way the grandmam are kind of playing into this idea of we just pretend we're fine because the grandmam tells people they have other investments, so they're fine, which obviously isn't the truth. Kind of keep up practices, and every time like somebody wants to come over, Corio is just like, no, grandma's not very well, like we can't be very loud. Like they basically managed to avoid it for that long. And I think they kind of get away luckily with that, and then the Corio just tries to pretend that he's got the money, that he's definitely got this life ahead of him, he's going to be the next president. It's basically like a fake it till you make it kind of situation.
I was about to say that exact phrasing is pretty much like what they embody in this entire thing. Just like, it's fine. And then they talk about like this big long list of precautions that you mentioned, hiding the fact that they're, and he calls it as poor as district scum, which
he does.
Really? But like, they also can't be the only ones that have faced such a dramatic change in circumstances. But they are probably the only ones who would rather starve than face the disgrace and shame of admitting to what has become of them. Like you said, like they've passed it off as like having more diverse investments than they do. And so actually they barely lost nothing in the capital's eyes, but they've lost everything because it wasn't like just everything was in one pot. That's the problem here, guys. But once again, they'd rather starve than admit to that fact.
I guess take this as a lesson, guys. Like, if you're going to put all your savings into investments, which I mean, please don't, like, not a smart move, but this is also not investment advice. But if you are going to, please make it a diverse portfolio. Don't put it all into one bloody district. Like, who thought that was a good idea? I don't know.
Yeah, don't stick it all in one place, because if that one place flops, also, this is probably this is a story that is very, very like 2020 coded. But if you are going to have like a secure wallet for your investments or your Bitcoin or whatever it is that you decide to invest in, crypto kind of isn't as big a talking point as it used to be. But if you are going to do that, please remember where you put your password. She says,
my God.
From familiar experience. Do you know this story? Do you know how Tom put my father put money and then we have lost the password for it?
I remember because you were looking for like weeks and weeks, and then I had people come around and help to try and find that bloody piece of paper, and I don't think you ever did you?
We have never found it.
Yeah.
We've never found it. And at one point we could have pulled that out for about 6 or 7 grand. It's not worth that much anymore. But we could have pulled it out when it was high. And we didn't. So if you are also going to put money in investments, please make sure you keep backup copies of whatever your passwords are. Not investment advice. I am not a financial advisor. We have to say this. However, that just seems like common sense to me. Yeah. Right?
Common
Don't
sense
be like
advice.
the Snows. Don't be like my fella. Common sense advice, basically. Like, and the issue that I have with the Snows with this as well, like, they have then also clung on to their final remaining asset for so long. Now their house is their final remaining asset, and they have clung on to that for so long that if they now did sell it, they would end up having almost nothing left, because like they'd have to then put whatever proceeds from that go to a smaller apartment, because the house is now worth less because no one can afford to buy it. And so like they kind of shot themselves in the foot, where if they, let it go earlier on when they realised, crap, District 13's gone, the capital's still prospering to an extent, or like we're getting better, let it go on a high. Come on, guys, like have some sense. But then what he says about the possibility of selling it. So obviously says there won't be much money left after the sale and they'd have to move. And I quote this point. He says they have to move to some obscure neighborhood and join the grimy ranks of everyday citizens without status, without influence, without dignity. The disgrace would kill his grandmother. It would be kinder to toss her out of the window of the penthouse. At least that would be quick. I'm sorry, what?
Oh my God.
You would rather die. This is why you have clung onto your house. This is why you've clung onto your dignity. Because you would rather die than be a regular member of society. Like, I think you've got your priorities all wrong, my dude. I really do. Yeah, something's not adding up here.
Yeah. That isn't the only time he's got his priorities wrong. Like, his pride really is the most important thing to him. Like, he tries to obviously find Tigris the morning his mentorship begins, because he isn't allowed to wear his academy uniform. And he's trying to find some clothes of his own that look smart and aren't threadbare, since he usually manages to get by in like his like smart uniform, since the academy provides it for him. Tigris is obviously trying to fix up a shirt enough that it looks presentable, and it's nearly time for Corio to leave, and he can't find Tigris or the shirt. Not great. And he starts like wondering like how on earth she's going to make this shirt look decent, and it's so telling for the times but also his mind when he leaps the idea of her pimping herself out to pay for it, to pay for something he needs. He thinks about people putting a price on her body and that she would have no trouble finding takers. He does say after that he is disgusted with himself for the thought, like, which is something, I guess. But like, this is the first chapter of the book. And it's like, I think it's like the first couple of pages. And we get like a really good look into his mind and his thinking on his relationships and how people can basically serve him. It's disgusting. It's your cousin. Get a fucking grip.
It's so rare you swear on this podcast. I love it.
I'm sorry, but it's just so weird. It's just weird. This whole episode, like, I'm not even hungry anymore, Rachel. I don't think I'll be eating lunch today.
We'll skip lunch. It's fine. We can work through. he also says, and it's important to point out that he says something like, surely the House of Snow hasn't fallen that far, when he's thinking about like the potential things Tigress like may have had to do to keep the family going. And this comes back around later when she does admit that she has done some things that she wasn't proud of because of the war. And when he questions it, like, she hits back with like, maybe you were too young and don't remember like exactly how bad it was. And he shoots back that like he remembers all of it. And like, how dare she say that? And then she's like, be kind then. Stop looking down on other people who have had to choose between their own lives and their pride. Like, and then his takeaway from this is to question what Tigress did. That's it isn't like a whole, okay, cool, yeah, we're in a rough situation. It's like, well, what did she do? And this then really, really hits home because obviously I have a theory brewing for this. Stick around for the Gaul episode for that one. You know this theory already. I was very, very excited telling you this theory. But obviously right now we're thinking that she's sold her body to put food on the table to get money for a black market. And this then really, really hits home because he's talking about how they can't have friends back in the apartment that they live in, and because that's why people will like see exactly how they live. And obviously grandmother's a bit embarrassing. And this whole thing not being able to invite people back to their house, this cost Tigress her high school relationship because her sweetheart read this like not wanting you to come around as a lack of commitment, which I can totally see how that would be read as, oh, you don't want me back at your house. Why don't you want to hang out on the outside of school? Why have you got mine? What are you hiding? So Corio says he doesn't get too close to anyone. And so he's never had a relationship, which obviously might then play into some of the Lucy Gray stuff later on. This is his first like relationship. But it does, however, definitely play into the fact that he says that on a dare, he got off with someone in the alleyway behind the train station after a few glasses of Posca. Doesn't even know this girl's name, by the way, at all. And it earned him the reputation of being a player. Now, this strikes me as rather hypocritical, that you are perfectly happy on a dare to go get off with a girl in a back alley, but God forbid you think that your cousin may have very obviously and consciously made a very, very difficult decision to keep you alive. And yet you will judge that harder than you with this girl who you don't even know who she was. Not because you fancied her, not because you liked her, but because your mate dared you.
I mean, when we get into kind of more talking about the Lucy Gray stuff, he obviously has a tendency to kind of slut shame as well. And I'm going to discuss that in more detail, save that for that episode. But I suppose it's not just the state of the apartment and the finances that means they can't bring people home, right? Like, it's the grandmam too. Like, she wakes up every morning with a rousing rendition of Panem's national anthem sung off key, which obviously gives a huge wartime impression, but that continues even when the capital is then like rebuilding and not technically at war anymore. And I understand being patriotic, but this is getting to the point where it sounds more unhinged than anything else. And this is what he has been raised around. Like, she's only done it on national holidays up to a certain point when the rebels had surrounded the capital 2 years before the end of the war. But then it continued basically daily from that point on. I think he'll go absolutely batty.
Yeah. And he can call his grandmother Batty as much as he likes. But like, she's clearly had a very, very like big and profound effect on him. And we'll be quoting, so like I said, some of the completely unhinged things that she comes out with later on. Well, like, I guess they were unhinged to us, right? But perfectly sane comments in post-war capital. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I do want to like address here Tigress. Being his cousin. Tigress, who when Corio comes to rebellion in like, so when the capital, Tigress, who like when it comes to the rebellion with the capital in the main trilogy, 65 years later, hides the girl who is out to kill her cousin, hides the girl who is out to kill Snow. Like, we also know from Sunrise on the Reaping, or we can assume from Sunrise on the Reaping, that Tigress did get actively involved with the Hunger Games as a stylist, right? There is someone who's I don't think her name's ever given, I think, when I was Googling it to figure out like exactly when it appeared, because I haven't reread Sunrise yet. It was like We assume it's Tigress because there was a Catiad stylist who was going a bit too far into looking like an animal. So we assume it's Tigress, right? So she gets actively involved then in the Hunger Games later down the line, which kind of begs the question, why? To everything, right? Why does she get involved in the Hunger Games? Because she does make some comments that say she's kind of like against them. Why does she basically harbor the girl who is trying to kill her cousin? Like, what's her dividing line where he goes too far? Because she actively says to Koyo that she can't sleep thinking about the tributes, feeling like they're getting younger and younger every year as she gets older. She's realizing how brutal it is. The older she gets, the more she knows about the situation. She's like, this is rough. And then obviously as well, like, they were each other's confidant, right? Corio confesses to Tigress like everything that he goes through with Clemencia and Arachne and Sejanus and Dr. Gall. So like at the end of the book, she's the person who knows the most about him and what he would class as his weaknesses, I guess. And then she gives up a lot for him. Like, we mentioned earlier about how they survive off so little food, cabbage and salt. And like in that scene where Tigress has sorted his shirt out, she's made starch from potatoes, right? And she says that she ate the skins of the potatoes, like, which is where all the nutrition is. She ate them when she was making the starch. So she gives Corio all the potatoes left to put in his cabbage soup for breakfast. And he just takes it. Right? But he gets fed at the school. Part of the academy is that the school provides him with lunch. It's a buffet. He helps himself to as much as he wants. He has multiple pieces of pie for dessert. He fills up, right? So for the love of God, man, give Tigress all the food at home for breakfast. She's a working girl. She's got to provide her own food everywhere she turns, and you are getting fed somewhere else. Nutritionally wise, she is not just like giving him the money, she's giving him all her nutrients as well, because he's taking her breakfast, he's taking her dinner, he's getting lunch at school. Like, and another mentor like skips food at the end of the book. Like, just claim, if someone says that your stomach is rumbling, just claim that you overslept and forgot breakfast because you know you're going to be at school. Say you like to sleep in. Say you just skip breakfast because you'd rather have an hour extra in bed. Like, there are ways around this, dude. Like, but Tigress is just willing to give up her food for him, and he won't push back. He won't like make her eat anything in that way. So he'll get scarce food at home. He gets like whatever they've got, and then a huge lunch provided for free. And then as you get towards the end of the book, like they're providing like dinner for the mentors who are staying behind as well. So he's getting a full 3 square meals a day. Breakfast might be crap. Like, don't get me wrong, breakfast might not be great, but he is probably the one in the household who is eating the most. I know you're going to say like growing boy and all that kind of stuff, but you know, the women also need calories as well, please. It rubs me up the wrong way.
I was just more going to say because he feels entitled to it. That's why he gets it.
Probably, yeah. That's the problem.
The grandmoms put Corio on a pedestal, keeps calling him the next president of Panem and all that sort of stuff. Probably makes Tigress feel a bit shit, to be honest, because she's like, well, what about me? You know what I mean? So I think, Corio is just put into the golden boy, and that's just kind of expected. But no, I agree. Like, Tigress should have more food, but sadly, that's clearly not the family dynamic they're living in.
And obviously, like, we'll learn later on, and we'll get into it with Snow as well, that he smuggles food out of the dining hall for Lucy Gray. And yet at no point has he thought of doing that for his cousin, has he? No. I do think it's fair to say, through all this discussion, that Snow has gone through some hell, let's be honest. Like, he watched his mother and baby sister die during childbirth because the city was so badly bombed that they couldn't get her to hospital. His dad died in the war as around the same time. He and Tigress have like lived with their high-strung grandmother and literally lived through a war zone, starvation, bombings. The family still hasn't recovered from this. Like, so I guess we do acknowledge that all this could not have been easy. But does this excuse any of his terrible attitudes and political leanings? Does it excuse the fact that he is more out for himself than anything else? No. I think not.
No, you would think you would think not having much and being starving and not having a lot of food and where he lives being kind of run down and not knowing what he's going to do and all this, you think that would shape him into a more compassionate, understanding individual who understands the district more, understands the tributes more. Like you think it would better him. And I know it sounds bad, like that's not always the case. Sometimes these situations are just bloody awful. But you would think from the perspective of the Hunger Games in that world that it would help him be better, but somehow it's made him worse.
Yeah. You would think that, but that's the, I guess, the lens of entitlement on the same situation. Like you are me. If we went through that, we would probably have a lot more sympathy for people who, because we do now, right? We have charities as human beings. We have charities and we try to give to those less fortunate than us. But when you then go into the state of being less fortunate, it then once again sort of reawakens you and like opens your eyes up to the situation. And you just get to learn on a different level how brutal the whole thing is. But then with his level of entitlement, he just goes, well, I should never have been in this position in the first place. And that's your fault, actually. So you know what? I don't care that I'm living like you. I should never be living like you. I am of a better breed than you. I have a better pedigree than you. And therefore, I deserve to trample all over you and take what little you have as well. And that is where the problem starts with him.
And
really.
This is probably a good place to stop for the day. We are trying this new thing on the podcast where we don't burn ourselves out writing these and filming these and editing these as being like multi-hour long episodes.
I mean, like, probably helps your guys' brains out too, let's be honest. Like, I think there's probably a limit to how much of my madness people can handle in one day. Also, how much of the negativity of Snow we can handle in one day.
Yeah.
we would hope.
Because, let's be honest, we have like barely scratched the surface of calling Snow an arsehole. So there is plenty more to come.
Yeah. Do you remember the time before like video on demand where you'd be left on a massive cliffhanger for a week or like whatever on a TV program you were watching, and you had to like wait to find out more? I hated that. Obviously, we've spoken about how much I like to be able to binge my books, and I prefer that for TV too. In fact, I'm going to watch Silent Witness tomorrow when it comes out on BBC iPlayer as both episodes back to back, rather than waiting for them to air again the next day, because God forbid I wait 24 hours. And now I kind of feel like I'm becoming part of that problem by splitting these up. I'm so sorry.
It's a necessity, Rachel. You'll get over it. So tune in next time. And what are you most looking forward to talking about next time?
There's some really, really toxic comments coming up that I can't wait to bring up. These are the ones from his grandmother. These are some of them from Corio himself. Stuff that's like not even related to the main narrative that we're spinning here with his assholeness, but more that just shows exactly who he is as a person, and I can't wait to see your reactions on them. But I'm also super excited to call Corio out on some of the shit that he pulls. Like we've talked a lot about like the background that has set him up today, and like that has put him in the position that he currently has. But I don't think we can assign all that to like his toxicity as like post-war capital culture. So let's dig into where else he's an asshole. What about you? What are you looking forward to talking about?
There's a lot of way that he like behaves with other people. He's able to like read people, manipulate them. That god awful comment about children. So we'll get into that next time. That's all coming up next time. So tune in, back in at the same time next week on Wednesdays, and tune in for part 2. Looking forward to having you
here.
Part 2.
I will shout out now part 2 of what will probably be 4 parts. Because I feel like we're already on an hour-long episode right now, and this was the shortest part that I've written so far. So I think even if you're a bit upset that we've split it up into multiple parts, just remember I haven't given you a 4-hour-long monster episode on Snow.
Yeah, I think that would have been too much,
That would have been far too heavy for a Wednesday. So tune back next time for a lot more on Snow being toxic AF.
Well, we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Bye. Thanks for listening to our podcast, and don't forget to let us know your thoughts on all of our potential assholes.
No matter what platform you're listening to us on, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, upvote and all that stuff.
If you like what we do and want to find out more, all of our platforms are listed in the description or show notes. We're a 2-person team, so any support or feedback is always greatly received.
Tune in next time to Once Upon a Red Flag.
It's disgusting. It's your cousin. Get a fucking grip.
It's so rare you swear on this podcast. I love it.
I'm sorry, but it's just so weird. It's just weird. This whole episode, like, I'm not even hungry anymore, Rachel. I don't think I'll be eating lunch today.